Hey, good Friday morning, folks. Not many of you on right now. They're having a little bit of an issue with push alerting that I'm going to be going live. So I will be with you. They say it's just going to take a couple of minutes, so hang in there, the few of you that are on here with me, and I will be right back with you. And they're saying now that it's just going to take a couple of minutes to get the push alert out. They're having an issue with the home page and that process. So I'll be back with you in just a moment. Hey, good Friday morning, my friends. MLive Chief Meteorologist Mark Torregrossa here with the MLive Morning Weather Update. The weekend looks mostly to entirely dry, depending on where you're at. We have a little bit of rain coming through today, tonight, early Saturday morning. Drought, I'm fearing, is going to continue to intensify because we don't really have any good blockbuster widespread rain systems. And remember, being in severe drought in a lot of places in Michigan, or maybe about a quarter of, we need several solid rains before we go into winter. So that's starting to become a concern of mine. And I'm talking about heat coming back, not 88 to 90 degrees, but maybe approaching 80 degrees, but certainly in the 70s at some point next week. So here we go. This is the rain. This is the rain. Yeah, it's pretty skimpy. Good morning, Todd Nordhoff. Good morning, Henry and Mima. Good morning, Kimberly Zeiser. And good morning to Tim Nosek and Lisa Collins from Saginaw Township. So there are the showers. All right, let's get on into it and show you the future. That's my job, right? Show you the future. So here's a radar forecast that I like. Well, let me hit refresh because it's always coming in. Rapid refresh. So here's noon. Yeah, we could have some spotty showers. I'm calling the northwest third of lower Michigan and the eastern UP through noon. And then as we get into the afternoon, this is 3 o'clock. Grand Rapids and Muskegon, South Haven, Grand Haven, Benton Harbor, you start to get the spotty showers. More showers, Traverse City-ish area. This is 6 o'clock. So Ann Arbor, Detroit, Jackson, you probably get to wait until the evening. I don't know if I can use the word get because a lot of us are really hoping for some rain for our landscape and whatnot. And we know that in the long run, being too dry through the winter is definitely not a good thing. Here in let's see, Sinatra says, hearing about La Nina, how will that affect us here in Michigan? Yes, a weak La Nina is expected to form. The projections, they actually have said that the La Nina has formed. It's supposed to be weak, but its projections got a little bit stronger, and that tends to also bring us slightly warming conditions, but I don't think the La Nina will be strong enough to really have a big effect on our weather. Now, this is this evening. This is 9 o'clock. So Saginaw, the Thumb, Grand Rapids, Lansing, eventually Ann Arbor through the evening hours in Detroit, get into some spotty showers. And then we take it out to now or tomorrow morning. And tomorrow morning, with the cooler air loft, you can get a stray shower in the Thumb. You could get a stray shower around the Traverse City area, even though it does not show up. These are lake effect random showers, not really that ominous. Here's the model that goes out a little bit farther into the future, and it shows the same thing. This is this afternoon. This is 3 o'clock. So if you're heading to northwest Lower Michigan, or if you're in northwest Lower Michigan, Mackinac City to Petoskey, Charlevoix, Gaylord, Traverse City, that area, you're going to have showers in the afternoon, and then those showers shift. This is 8 o'clock tonight, shift into the southeast, Grand Rapids also during the late afternoon, evening hours, and this model also shows very little going on Saturday. I'd be a little bit skeptical in the morning hours around any of the lake shorelines because you can always have a stray shower. Now, look at this. A whopping copious amounts of rainfall. No, not really at all. Northern third of Lower Michigan, let's call it a 0.2 to maybe 0.4. Eastern UP, you get a 1/2 inch to 1 inch. Then you get to Grand Rapids, Saginaw, Bay City, Flint southward, and you're talking less than 1/10 of an inch, and you're talking maybe some areas around Ann Arbor, Washtenaw County, and into the Detroit area. Might not even have anything as far as precipitation. David Feinblum, good morning, Mark. Will soon be too cold to continue watering. Will rain return in, say, November? We'll look at that. It looks like we get a little bit more moisture, but remember, as the temperatures go colder, it gets harder to have decent amounts of moisture. Here's the European model, and like I said, it's pretty skimpy. So this is the weekend. The weekend is dry, we'll call it. Definitely Sunday. Here's Monday, dry. Here's Tuesday, here's Wednesday, here's next Thursday, October 16th. The next rain showing up isn't until next Friday, October 17th. Then the weekend, and then it's a few days again before the next rain. October 22nd to 25th, somewhere in there, it's starting to look like we could have some rain. Look at the total rainfall off of the European model, and here's today's rain into tonight. It's very similar to the short-term models. And then we go into next week, still dry, and we go into next Friday. It puts down, a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch in places. And run it all the way out 16 days. You see some colors. You're like, okay, that's nice. But remember, this is 16 days. And it's saying that, some areas around Ann Arbor and Detroit and the eastern part of the Thumb may only have a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch in the next 16 days, the next 2 weeks essentially. Other areas an inch or so. That's still pretty light, especially in drought conditions, and maybe in the northwest shoreline from Muskegon northward to the bridge and across the UP you might get 1 inch to 2 inches, but it's really a pretty dry forecast. And it's fairly warm. Again, not 80s, but today's cooler. We're in the 60s, 50s north. Tomorrow with the clouds around, also in the 50s. Let's see here. And Sunday in the 60s to near 70. Monday, 70-ish. Tuesday, 70-ish in a lot of places of Lower Michigan. Wednesday, cooling in the north, cooling in the south, 60s, 50s next Thursday. And then we're kind of seeing the signs of maybe a couple of day 70s run, and this model wants to take us to 80 in some places in the south. Not out of the question. That's October 20th. And you see a little bit cooler weather as we head toward the end of October, but nothing that at all looks like what we would call cold. So above normal temperatures continue, just probably in your mind, probably not perceptible above normal, warmer than normal temperatures because of what we've just been through. There you have it. Still, we continue with the quiet weather pattern. We continue basically with an overall drought theme and an overall moderately warmer than normal conditions. We'll keep waiting. We know what comes. We know winter does come here to Michigan. We just don't know at this point if it's a harsh winter or not. And I'll have a lot to say on that. I'm formulating my opinions, reading some long-range experts that I like to follow and what they're seeing, their analog years. So I'll have more on that here in the next couple of weeks. First, one thing I would like to say is that I get this question: are we going to have a bad winter? What's a bad winter? So we have to define what Michiganders on average call a bad winter, and everybody's individual. Are we going to have a bad winter? I'm always, stuck in the middle there. It's a losing proposition for me to answer that question because some people, as soon as they see the first flake of snow, say, "Oh, I thought you said it wasn't going to be a bad winter." And others say, "Boy, back in the 50s, we had ice on Saginaw Bay by November. I thought it was going to be a bad winter." So all I can do is tell you if it's going to be warmer than normal, or colder than normal, average over the winter, if it's going to be wetter than normal, snowier than normal, and then you kind of have to decide what a bad winter is for you. That was quite a rant, wasn't it? All right, thanks for joining me. Have yourselves a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday. Bye.